So one more thing, folks, you have to set up your Visual Studio setup. I will share the link where to get started. I hope few of you must be already having in your machine. If you guys do not have it, don't worry. I will help you out to set it up. So we are going to use Visual Studio for our class. We will need that definitely to practice all the hands-ons. How this Visual Studio code looks like. I made it a little bigger for you guys. Let me know if this is fine for you. What I'll do is I'll open a folder. I'll create a new folder for this class. Events, I'll create a Jan batch folder. Okay. So this is Visual Studio, folks. So when you create your when you open your Visual Studio first, you try to open a folder in a specific location. I opened an empty folder. In that location, I'm going to create all my code. Okay. So the Terraform code or whatever that we're going to do, if you do it with an editor, right, it'll be easy. You can also do with the notepad as well. There is no harm in that, but editor will help you in a proper structure. Okay, so you can easily uh, work with the Terraform because this is integrated. Also, you have a terminal. You can open a new terminal for you. This terminal will help you to run your commands, Terraform commands. Okay, we will see what are the commands we are going to work out with, but yeah. So these are PowerShells. I'm interested to open a Git bash. I'll just open Git bash. If you guys have PowerShell, that is fine. Anything is fine. I just need the command prompt. All right. So we are going to create our Terraform files. Before we move on, I hope everyone arrived. Any questions, folks? Okay. If there is no questions, let me get started. What are we going to see first? First, we need to understand how the Terraform works. We have already seen multiple times what is Terraform, how it is going to be used, but we will directly get started with how are we going to write our code, right? For to write our code, right, we need to understand the document. We need to know how to review the documentation because documentation is a main thing for our Terraform code. Why? Because we cannot remember all the syntax, all the keywords because we are not going to work for one particular area, right? Because today you might get a requirement to automate some infrastructure, some on some services on AWS. But in AWS, you see how many services are available. So you don't know how many requirement you will get it. So you need a documentation in order to refer, right? I'm just referring AWS here, but in general, what we will need is documentation. Why? Because Terraform today you will learn the generic way, but it can be applied for AWS, Azure, GCP, anywhere, any cloud. Let's say Alibaba Cloud, whatever that you want to use it, you can use it. Okay. So how are we going to target our Terraform environment to AWS? So that is called as providers. So Terraform, right? Basically, we need to install a provider. I mean plugins. We need to install a plugins for the providers, whatever that we are going to use it. Okay. So what is providers? What are the providers Terraform provides? We need to know what are the Terraform, providers are being given and how do we review the documentation, right? So there are three official providers by Terraform. So the Terraform documentation, go to registry.terraform.io. This is the website. So if you go, so let me ping this in the chat box as well. Registry.terraform.io. If you go there, this is your Terraform registry where all your Terraform resource, everything, documentation, everything is put it here. Now, if you see here, browse providers, browse modules, browse policy libraries, browse run tasks. Don't look at policy libraries and run tasks. Look at the providers or modules. Modules we will see eventually, but first I'm interested to tell you about the provider. What is providers? Providers as in Terraform support multiple providers. AWS providers, Azure providers, GCP providers, lot of providers. So we basically categorize into three tiers of providers. What are three tiers? If you see here, left side, there are three tiers. One is official providers. What is official providers? Officially, the Terraform itself release a documentation for those kind of providers, right? So if you just click here, you will see this official partner and community. What is official partner and community? Official as in Terraform manages everything. So what are the official providers? There are only three official providers, guys. Three, four. Now it is. I think it was three. Now Kubernetes also managed by thing. Mainly these are the providers concentrated. What are the providers if you see? AWS, Azure, GCP, Kubernetes. There are a lot of providers which are additionally there. Like under AWS you have something, and Azure something, GCP something, you have it. But mainly these are the official providers. If you see partner provider, what is partner provider? Because those partner providers being managed by the partner services, Alibaba Cloud and Oracle Infrastructure, they are managing their Terraform set of logics inside this Alibaba Cloud and Oracle Cloud. But other than that, you have community provider. How many community providers? There are thousands of community providers are available. Like you can also create your own community provider and put it in your Terraform registry. There are thousands of community providers are available. You want to automate something for any infrastructure, you have thousands of providers available, right? But we are not going to look at the community one. We are going to look at the official, which is AWS. You click on AWS, it will take you to your AWS provider. How this is going to work, you need to understand. So you're going to write some Terraform code to provision something on AWS. But Terraform, when you run some Terraform command, Terraform needs to understand what sort of provider it is, right? Because Terraform code basically has lot of providers. What provider are you writing? So what you need to do, when writing your code, you need to mention, hey, I'm going to use this AWS provider. I'm going to use this AWS provider. So when you mention Terraform that, hey, I'm going to use AWS provider, what Terraform will do, Terraform will internally download this provider plugin. This is a version of that particular plugin. So you have different versions for the different providers. You have different version. Why? Because day by day AWS increases their services, features, and things. Every time Terraform also has to upgrade all their versions, right? So they released different version. You see 5.3.1, which is released 20 days ago, 5.3.0, which is released a month ago. In the last month itself, there are 4 or 5 releases. If you click view all versions, you have hell lot of versions available. But when you always write your code, you should always fix some version. Today, when I'm writing, right, I can fix the version 5.3.1. Why? Because today I write the code. After 1 or 2 years, I might come here and change my code to change or modify some configuration. But at that time, a newer version might be released. The syntax and few settings might have changed. So if I don't mention the version, I need to change my code again. So what I can do, I can fix the version. Hey, use this 5.3.1. So when you fix the version, the syntax will be the plugin will be downloading the specific version, and all your syntax, everything is going to work in the same version. Okay. So this is what the provider configuration is about. So how to use this provider? You can actually click on this use provider. They have the syntax readily available for you. This is how you will use your providers. I'll show you how to write it. In the beginning, few classes, we are not going to interact directly with AWS. We will understand the Terraform syntax first of all, how we will use a provider configuration. This is actually the provider syntax. So we will have to write like this, but initially I'm not going to write the code for AWS. Why? Very first few classes we will understand the Terraform configuration, how to create a Terraform file, how to create the resource, how the Terraform workflow is going to be. That's what the focus is initially. All right. So any questions, folks? Guys, one request, please be interactive because it's an offline session. If you guys have any doubts, I might not come to know because it's not in-person class, right? I cannot see your facial reaction or something. But keep posting your question. Be interactive. Always free to talk. If you don't understand something, stop me right away and ask. So when you're silent and say nothing, right? There are only two things. One, you get everything, or you get nothing, right? So I assume you get things. If you don't get things, stop me right away and ask me questions. That will probably help me to understand more about your set. Yeah, open for questions. Okay, I'll proceed next. How are we going to write the syntax? So I think till yesterday we have seen about how do we configure and things like that. Then we will move forward with our syntax. How the syntax is going to be. Terraform files, we will have to create a file with the extension called as filename.tf. For example, I told you to create, not this one. So I told you to just open an empty folder for your Terraform, code. What I can do in the left side, this is called as Explorer. If you click this, you will get this Explorer. Right click, click a new file, create a new file. I'm going to create a new file for Terraform. First file, I'm going to create like a local.tf. Usually, we start with hello world kind of program, right? So in Terraform, we are going to do a hello world, but that hello world, what operation we are going to do is we are just going to create a local file with some text. Any operation is called as infrastructure, right? Like now in your local, right click, create a new file. That's again one of the configuration. So that I'm going to do it with Terraform. So how to do it? So I will create some file name called as my first Terraform dot tf. Any file that you're trying to create, the file name dot tf extension. Tf is a Terraform extension. Just do enter. The Terraform file has got created. Inside this, you have to write your code, right? So that's what I've mentioned in the PPT that, your file name should be your file name, whatever the file name that you want to keep it, .tf. If you ask me, hey, Satish, you just gave the name as my first Terraform. Do we have any convention to follow? Yes, we do have the convention to follow because when you go for a project, you will have different sort of configuration, a hell lot of files, but you need to look at the file name and identify what that file contains about, right? So we follow some convention, but we will go eventually and learn about it. How are we going to do it? Okay, but I'm gonna write everything in this file initially. There is no fixed rule that your name should be like this. Your name can be anything, but you need to understand how it's going to work, right? So as I told you, we are going to write HashiCorp configuration language, which is our syntax. How the syntax is going to be, we can create any sort of resources in your AWS, right? We can create a EC2, VPC, S3, any services on AWS, not just on AWS, on Azure or GCP. Any resources that you're going to create, that should be created under resource block. So I think in the syllabus, I've told you we will see about many blocks. First thing we are going to talk about a resource block because we are going to create a resource. But in general syntax, if you talk about, right, how the general syntax is going to be in Terraform, any code that you take, you have a block type first and the block label first and second block label. The first block label basically, what resource are you going to create? Second block label is the resource name, the resource what you're creating, right? For this resource, you give a reference name in Terraform. That is the second block label. And you have a open braces and close braces. Within that, you will have all your identifiers. What are these identifier? Where we will get it? This is purely depends on your resource. What are you trying to provision, right? For example, when you're trying to provision a VPC in AWS, you see, resource is a block type, and you have your resource. What resource actually are you going to provision? AWS VPC are you going to provision? And for this VPC, I'm going to create it, give a name as main. Main is a name, or I can say main VPC. Any name that I can give. So only underscores are encouraged in the name. You are not allowed to use any other special characters. So you use your names and then open braces and close braces. Within that, you have your identifier. What is this identifier? So to create your VPC, you need to provide your CIDR block. So CIDR underscore block equals to this is my CIDR block. That's the input. So to create this resource, I need to give an input. Without input, it can't get created, right? So what is the input? CIDR block is the input. Hey, Satish, how will I get to know this is the particular parameter? I can just simply say CIDR also, right? These are all predefined. These definitions you will get to know from documentation. That's why I told you initially, documentation is important to refer the actual labels, right? Now, we will have to just know how to, write the syntax using Terraform, but documentation, the provider documentation has a reference what to do with. So when you frequently work, you will come to know basically, you will keep it in your mind, but when you kick start your learning, you will have to refer the documentation. I'll help you for each and every task how to refer this documentation, right? So this is a syntax. Now the same syntax I'm going to use for my example. For my example, what kind of example? I told you I'm going to give you an example how to create a file, the local file, right? So you can ask me, hey Satish, you told we need to refer the documentation. I need to create a local file using Terraform. How can I create it? So what you do, there is actually a module called, the provider called as local provider in Terraform. So Terraform local provider. Just Google it, you get a documentation for Terraform local provider. The first link you go, this is a Terraform local provider. This is to manage your local resources. So such as creating files. You click on this documentation, you see this local provider documentation. So you see the provider version is 2.4.1. Now this is what I'm going to use it. How can I use it? You click on resources because we are going to create resource. What are we going to create? Local file. You click this. This is a resource we are going to create. Actually speaking, the entire syntax is being given here. The example usage, if you see here, right? Example usage is given. And what are the possible identifiers you can use? That is given here. You see optional identifier. And they will tell you what is a required one and what is optional one. You have to use the required one. The optional ones are like, you can use it based on your purpose. But this is the syntax. I can directly copy this. I can use it, but I'll tell you how to write it. I will say how to write. The syntax I told you, right? The first is the block type. What type of block I'm going to create? Resource space. What sort of resource? Local underscore file. This particular name should be same as what you see in your documentation. You see here local underscore file. This is the resource name. So local underscore file. For this local underscore file, I'm going to give I'm going to give some name. My file, right? Space, open braces and close braces. So this is a syntax to create your resource. Now to create a file, there are two things I can give. What is the file name and what is the content for that particular file, right? You see here in the example, they have given just required parameter is file name. Why? It can create an empty file also, but you can also provide the content. What sort of content I wanted inside. So what is the parameter? File name and content. I'll say file name equals to content equals to. So what is the file name? I can give my file name as my first Terraform file.txt. Some text file I'm creating. Inside that, I'm going to write a content. Hello guys. This is the first Terraform code. Something. So I have written a basic script called as resource block, which contains a local file, and I need to create a file which has a name, file name and content. Now the code is ready. How can I execute it? What is the workflow in Terraform? That we need to understand. So as I told you, the workflow basically, before you apply or execute this particular file, you can actually see what Terraform is going to do. Basically, the plan you can see in your Terraform. Before going to Terraform, plan and everything, I told you the very first thing is to download all the relevant plugins. Now, what plugin it needs to run this code? It is running on local file, local underscore file as in which provider it is, local provider. So it has to download this local provider. So we need to mention our Terraform code. What is my provider configuration? In the same file, I can mention what I can mention Terraform local provider configuration. See, if you guys don't know how to write the syntax for provider, you can click on this use provider, copy this directly. This is one way, or you can just go here and type something Terraform. The Terraform configuration it is. So under this, you have to mention required underscore providers. Right? Required underscore providers. Under required provider, you can make a list of providers what you want. For now, I will make only for local providers. How can I mention? Local is the provider name equals to, I can mention the configuration of this local provider. What is the configuration? From where I want to download this local provider, the source. Source equals to, I'll say HashiCorp dash local. Why? I told you this is a one of the provider under HashiCorp. You see here, this is also given in the same way, HashiCorp/local. So you have to say it's a HashiCorp provider/local, and you also have to say the version. Version is which version we wanted. I will say uh, 2.4.1. So I can say 2.4.1, a specific version, or anything above 2.0. I can say 2.0. There is a 2.0. Anything above 2.0 also I can say. So if you mention like this, anything above 2.0. But usually I suggest you to fix some version. Why? Because as I told you, if versions are being changed, right, you will not face any issues. Now, this is how you need to mention your provider configuration. This block is mandatory, guys. As I told you, without this, it will automatically identify. If you don't mention also, Terraform will look at this particular resource type. Okay, it is using the local module. It will automatically download that local plugin. But always, insisted to mention your local provider detail, which version you are going to use it, because there are multiple providers are available in Terraform. So you have to mention this configuration. Now, by looking at this code, Terraform will automatically understand, okay, these are the provider it is going to use. And I need to download these providers. So first step, it will download this provider. When it will download the provider, you have to execute a command. So you need to understand the workflow of Terraform. All right. Yeah. Any questions, folks? I see there is a question asked, what does this app call again? Which means I did not understand the question, Kiss. Can you elaborate? What is the question? Oh. Hi, Kiss, can you explain? You're on mute, maybe. You mean in the screen? Okay. Oh, this application, you mean? Okay, this is Visual Studio Code. You can see here. Visual Studio Code, it's an editor. Local.tf. Which one? I did not create as local.tf. I created as my Terraform, my first Terraform. I'll tell you about the naming convention, local.tf or some local.tf. What I told is just a naming convention for Terraform files. For now, you leave it about local.tf or provider.tf, everything. I'll tell you how to separate that. For now, we will write everything in a file and then we will see how to be use the naming conventions. Okay. But what I'm writing is it's on Visual Studio Code. This is the application for Visual Studio Code. Did I clear your? Yeah, Theo.
Yeah, so the resource name you used, local_file,
Yeah,
is that, are we following like what we saw on the Terraform documentation, or can we actually change
exactly.
that
We should.
for that
We should. You cannot change it because looking at
software?
this Terraform interprets based on this name. So when you say this name, it will refer this particular modules, this particular resource. So it should not change. It should be same as what you are seeing in your documentation.
And it's same for like all of the resources, right? So they always have like their own resource name that we must never change.
Sorry,
So is it same for like other resources? Let's say, for example, VNet or EC2 instance. So Terraform has like a
it will change. It will change for all the resources. For now, it is a local module. I mean, local provider
I
and
understand,
file
I
we are
understand.
trying to create.
So
Same way,
what I'm
it will be changing for AWS underscore EC2, something like that.
yeah, so what I'm asking is, I know it's gonna change. Let's say for VNet is gonna be another name. So it's Terraform that is providing the resource name to us. That's what you're saying, right? So we cannot change that resource name that Terraform
You
is
cannot,
providing.
you cannot, you can.
Yeah, you can move on, Satish. When
Yeah,
we're going to do the practice, then only we are getting some issue. Next day class, we will ask you some clarification.
definitely. Yeah. So concept wise clear, right? I'll go ahead with
Yeah.
your Terraform. Yeah, this is what Terraform settings is. I told you, right? How to do the Terraform settings. This is using the provider configuration. This is a block where you will be able to mention what type of plugins we are going to use it, the provider plugin, right? For this particular actually there is a provider configuration. I'll tell you about this later. Why? Because for now we are not using, we are using a local provider. So for, okay, what is For this particular provider, if I want to configure something, for example, I'm going to use a AWS provider. Let's say AWS equals to, I will mention source equals to HashiCorp something, HashiCorp local, sorry, HashiCorp slash AWS, and some versions I'll use it, right? 5 dot, maybe anything, 5.2.1, something like that, anything. Okay. So for this particular AWS, I need to do some sort of configuration. For example, I need to set the region. I need to set some environment properties. Then I can again use a provider configuration for this AWS. I will say provider AWS provider block. I'll say AWS. For this particular AWS, I will be able to use my provider configuration. This we will see that in future, guys, because we are not going to AWS for now. For now, I'll just use a local provider. Why I'm saying is don't get confused with this Terraform settings slide, because this provider configuration is specific to this particular provider. Now, what I'm setting is I'm setting up the region and the profile what to use, right? So this we will use it for the AWS related settings. You can also do for Azure, Google Cloud, anything. If you want to do the provider related settings, you must be able to do this, right? So as I told you, version constraint, you should use the version, and then we will see about few log file and things like that. Yeah, but this before going there, I need to tell you about the workflow. Yes, where I'm coming to. What is the workflow for the Terraform execution phase? Now, the user. What we have done, we have written the code. This is the step where we are currently. Now we have written the code. This is my code, right? This is my code. I have written the code. What code? I have written a code to provision a resource, which is for local file. I've also written a code for the required plugins, what Terraform needs to download, right? Now, next thing is after writing my code, the user writing the code, the very first step you have to execute a command called as Terraform init. What do you mean by Terraform init? So Terraform init basically it will look at your code and will find out all the relevant plugins the Terraform code needs. And then it will download the Terraform plugins. So it will install the Terraform plugins in your local machine. After you install the plugins in your local machine only, you will be able to, Terraform will be able to interpret your code. So Terraform plugin is needed in order to interpret your code. So what is Terraform plugin is going to do? It will download this plugin and install it in your local machine. I will tell you how to do that. So just go here and say, see, I'm into the current folder. I think I'm into same folder, Jan batch, right? So do ls, you make sure your file is there. Then you do Terraform init. This is a command. So what it is doing, first step, you see here, I'll make it a little bigger. You see here, when I say Terraform init, initializing the backend. What is backend? This step, I'm not going to tell you for now, but I will tell you this after few classes. Why? Because this is for the state file management. I told you configuration called a state file. Remember to manage the configuration. This part will not be done now, but I'll tell you the next thing is initializing the provider plugin. For provider, we have to install HashiCorp/local. This is being identified from our code. We have written our code, right? This is the required provider. From this, it automatically identified. It has to download this HashiCorp/local, and it has to download this particular version, what we mentioned, and it has downloaded. See, installing, and it is installed. You see here, there is a folder called as .terraform is created. Inside that, it created a folder called as providers. Inside that, see, Terraform provider local underscore 2.4.0.exe. The provider plugin has got created, right? And Terraform created a log file. What is this log file? This log file, keep it in mind, guys. I told you, you have to use some file. This file will be fixed in a configuration file called as log.hcl. In this log.hcl, you will have your provider plugin and locked with a particular version 2.4.0. 2.4.0. You see here versions and constraints. So it is fixed with this particular version. Now, if you just go here and change some version, it will still use 2.4.0. Why? Because it has already locked the version. If you again want to change the version, again you need to do Terraform init. Once you've done the Terraform init, one time if you are done, if it is downloading the provider plugin in your local machine, that's fine. That's good actually. It is there in your local machine. You will be able to perform all your Terraform operations, right? Now, Terraform init is a very first step. It will download all your plugins in your local machine. So it downloaded and it has fixed the file and it has created a lock.html. .terraform.log.html, which has already locked the version. Now the next step is after doing the Terraform init, there are multiple steps I have told you, but the main step, you can go with all the steps. First, you can do Terraform FMT and then Terraform validate and then Terraform plan, or you can directly do Terraform plan. This FMT and validate are steps to verify our syntax and to format our Terraform code. For example, I have not followed some good style here, right? Let's say I have just put it like this. Actually, I should not do like this. I need to write a proper code, the coding quality, right? If I do Terraform FMT, what it will do, you look at this. I just removed all the spaces, right? But it automatically brought all the spaces and put this, in a very nice format. So Terraform FMT is to format this particular code just to, align in a proper format. That's it. Terraform FMT is a command to align in a proper format. That's a very first. And then you have a Terraform validate. Let's say I want to validate my syntax, whether the syntax are correct or not, right? How to validate? Terraform validate. Enter. What it will do, it will validate, okay, success, the configuration is valid. What if I don't have, let's say instead of content, I just mentioned contents, but there is no such meaning of contents. Why? Because in the documentation, it has given as content, but I have written it as contents. What will happen whether the syntax is correct or not? The syntax is actually wrong, right? What's happening? Terraform validate. Now, if you see, it's throwing some error. What sort of error? See, unsupported argument. What is unsupported argument? Contents. There is nothing called as contents. It is not expected here. Do you mean content? Because there is something called as content actually. So it is suggesting, do you mean content? So to verify your syntax and things like that, you have to use your Terraform validate command. Terraform validate is helping you to verify your syntax. How it will verify your syntax, it has a plugin in your local. With that, it will verify. If you don't have the plugin, if you don't have a Terraform init, you cannot directly do the Terraform validate. First, you have to do the Terraform init. Terraform init is mandatory to do. Keep it in your mind. Whenever you get started, Terraform init is the first thing you should do, and then you can do all your operations. So Terraform validate will verify your syntax. And then you do Terraform. What is plan? As I told you, see here, there is a step called as Terraform plan. What is this Terraform plan? The Terraform plan is going to help you to check out your code and bring you a plan what your code is going to perform when you execute. Okay. So Terraform plan, I'll do enter. What it will perform, Terraform will analyze your code and say, what are you going to do? You're going to create. See, I'm going to create. So when you see plus symbol wherever, those things are getting created. Terraform will perform following actions. Local file dot my file, which means our code, right? Local file dot my file. So my file is going to get created. What is that? Okay. My file is going to get created for that resource. These are the values we applied. We gave only the file name and content. Remaining things automatically taken as default. If you are not giving, it will automatically take as default one. But if you look at, main thing is look at this, the plan. What is the plan? One to add, which means one resource to create, and zero resource to change, zero to destroy, right? Now I'm going to create a new resource. So one file will be created. For
Excuse me.
example, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so sorry to interrupt, but I don't know if it's my internet, but I feel like there is a gap between what you are saying and the and what is showing on the screen. I don't know if other people are facing the same issue. I just want to
Is everyone,
confirm.
guys, are you facing any issues? Guys, are you facing
No,
any issues?
my my side no. My side no.
Okay, thanks, Vijay.
Okay,
No,
I will
okay.
have to rejoin again then.
Maybe yeah, disconnect and rejoin Igor. Okay, that may help. All right. Yeah. So what I was saying is how to analyze the plan. Now, for example, guys, uh, I wanted to. I have already mentioned it, right? Like I'm going to create one file called as local file.myfile. My file is not the file name. File name is something what I gave here, my first Terraform file. Then what is this name? This name is a Terraform reference name. Local file.myfile is a Terraform reference name. Okay. So this file is getting created and the plan is one to add and one to destroy. So it actually not created this particular file. It just told you the plan. What is the plan? It is going to perform. That's what the Terraform plan is about. Once now you look at the plan and you see that something needs to be changed. Okay, the file name is not good. What I will do, my first, instead of Terraform plan, it is such a big name, I'll say just TF file. Now I will again do Terraform plan and look at, okay, this is looking good for me now. Now, once you feel that your changes, what you are expecting is actually good in your plan, then you are ready to perform the further actions, which means you can apply this particular code. How do I apply? The next step in workflow, basically plan apply or Terraform destroy. If you want to delete the resources, you can say Terraform destroy. If you want to apply this configuration, you can just say Terraform apply. How can I apply it? I'll just go and I will say Terraform apply. Enter. You see here, it will again give you a plan. Actually, whenever you do apply, first it will plan and show you this is the plan. Do you want to perform these actions? If you say yes, it will apply this configuration. I will say yes. If you say no, it won't apply. I will say yes and enter. You see here, creating and creation completed. You see in the left side, my first tf file.txt. Hello guys, this is the first Terraform code. So this is actually applied. So the file is created. And whenever the Terraform configuration is being applied, one configuration file will be created, I told you, which is called as terraform.tfstate. That state file is very, very important. Why? Because now already we created now. You see here, apply completed, 1 added and 0 destroyed. Again, when I do Terraform plan, if you see Terraform plans, no changes. It will tell you no changes. Why? Because you wrote a code to create one resource and that resource is already created. It will not verify looking at the resources created. It will verify looking at the state file. What is the state file? This is a configuration file basically, right? So this configuration file is going to contain what all the resources are already created, right? What are the resources are already created. Now, what if you delete this particular file? Folks, tell me, I'm going to delete this file. Can I delete this? What will happen if I delete? Yes,
Terraform will not be able to manage the file.
exactly. Terraform will not be able to manage the file, which means whether the file is created or not, Terraform will not know. Let me delete it. I deleted. Now, again, I'm doing Terraform plan. When I do Terraform plan, the file is already exist. But if you see, Terraform is still saying one to add. Why? Because for Terraform, everything is a configuration file. Right? Now, I will say Terraform apply. What will happen? It will say, it will ask you if I want to create. If you say yes, it will create a file. But the file is already created. It just recreated now. It just recreated the file. Why? Because the file is basically needs to be created by Terraform. Now, when I do Terraform plan again, it will not say any resources to add. You see here, no changes. Why? Because it created a state file. The state file is very, very important for you to manage your entire infrastructure configuration. All right. Folks, are you able to understand? Any questions?
So no question, Satish.
Yeah.
You can
No
go
one
ahead.
has any question? I hope.
As of now, my old statement. When we do the practice, we can if you face any issue, then only you raise the question.
Yeah, that is fine. But for now, like looking at the
Now
concept,
understand
right?
understand the
You,
concept. Understand.
yeah, thanks.
Yeah,
Others,
sometimes,
any questions?
Satish,
If you have, let me know. Yeah.
Satish, sometimes we change the terminal. The bottom side, top side, two terminal. How to make it elaborate? If the sometimes you make it a single terminal. How is it possible? Which option you are
So
taking?
there is a up arrow here, right? If you see, you look at here.
Where?
So in this bar, right, in
Where-
terminal, here you see this up arrow.
Yes.
So look at this, it will maximize. And
Okay,
then
okay,
look
okay,
at
okay,
again
okay,
that you will minimize.
okay, okay.
All right. Yeah. So I hope everyone is clear. The same thing, guys, I'm going to tell you one more thing is I'm going to create one more resource. How to do that? I'll just copy paste the same thing, but this time I will say I will append just two. This is okay in the Terraform. Now, when I do Terraform plan, what will be the plan, guys? When I do Terraform plan, what will be the plan?
So
When I do
what?
Terraform plan, mhm,
Yeah, when you give the command Terraform plan, it will show what will be the impact. There is no any destroy. What
I'm
resource will be
asking,
created?
yeah, one more resource will be created, which means already one
Okay,
resource is created. One more resource will be created. So one to add, it will tell you. You see here, one to
yeah,
add,
and
right? You see one to add. Now, what I will do, one more thing is here I will just say modifying content. I modified the content, guys. Modified the content. And this one, I have created a new one. When I do Terraform plan, right? Terraform plan. What will be the plan? You need to understand. You see here, I'm going to do this Terraform plan. What it will perform is, it will tell you, see, one to create. The other one is destroy and create as a replacement. So what it is going to do is, the content is going to get force replaced. So wherever you see this tilde symbol, which means those things are going to get modified. So if you see here, two to add. Why two to add? One to destroy. So one file, this file is going to get deleted and recreated. So the file will be deleted and recreated with the content. And then one more file will be created newly for you. Right?
I
So I
think
try to,
actually your screen got stuck.
my screen stuck, is it?
Yeah, for me it is showing like,
I will
can
stop
someone
share
please
and
help me?
share it
Yes, I
again.
think it was stuck. That's why I just disconnect and reconnect again. I thought it was on my side again.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, can you move the cursor once so that
Yes, yes.
we will come to know?
I am moving.
Yeah. Now we are able to see.
Now, fine. Is it? Okay. So what I have done, guys, again, I'm sorry for if you are not able to see. I was telling that I just modified a content called as modifying content in the first file. I created one more resource. Now, created one more resource called as myfile2, myfile2.txt, and I just mentioned second code Terraform. Now, when I do Terraform plan, what will happen is what my question. What will happen? I already created this resource, but this time I just modified it and I have one more resource to be created. So when I look at the Terraform plan, what's happening is, see, I did Terraform plan. Now there are two things it's going to do: create, destroy, and create as a replacement. So what the first file will be replaced, which means I modified the content. This is the content will get modified. So for second file, it is actually going to create a new file. But look at the plan: two to add and one to destroy, which means one file will be deleted for me and two files will be added for me. All right. So that's the plan, right? In Terraform, this is what it's going to do. I will do Terraform apply. And okay, sorry, Terraform apply. All right. So I will do Terraform plan. I will say yes, it will apply. You see here, destroying first and then destruction completed. Then it created a file. Two files are created. One file is the first one, modifying content, and second one with some content. So whenever again and again execute it, it will actually create a backup file, but it will just have as a backup one. This is the actual state file. This is a backup. Previously we had one state, right? That actually created as a backup. So in state file, you can actually see what are the resource created. Two resource we created, right? What is that? My file and my file 2. Those will be there in Terraform state file. You look at this. So what are the instances? You see here, this is one, modifying content, which is my file, right? You look at this, type is local file and the name of the resource is my file. This is one resource. And this is second resource, local file, my file 2. This is second resource, right? So there are two resources under state file. So in your cloud, in AWS, you have thousands of resources. All thousands will be managed under state file under the resource block. You will be able to look at the resource block, what are being managed, what are not being managed. You will be able to identify. So in going further, right, we will see how are we gonna inspect all these items. Okay, I'll stop right here for today's session on the topics. Feel free to ask the questions now, guys. Yeah, folks, any questions? For now, you need to do the hands-on. Definitely, you have to do the hands-on in order to get the complete concept. Please do the hands-on. Come back and ask your questions. I can help you to clarify. Then I'll proceed next. How I can help you in order. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Go, guys. Any questions?
Now, no question. Today maybe question about this class.
Yeah. But usually I get a lot of questions in the very beginning classes, basically, from everyone. Any sort of question. But I get no questions. I assume that everyone has got the concept and no questions in the concept wise, or at least anything out of this. Let me know if you want to discuss anything, or if you want to talk to me personally. Ask the Visual Studio, Visual Path people to connect with me. They will connect.
Okay.
All right.
Srikanth, will you teach any other
Sure.
courses along
Thank you.
along with this Terraform?
Yeah, I
Generally?
take DevOps, AWS, Azure
Okay.
in general. All right.
Okay. Are there any sessions are going on currently for Azure DevOps?
Currently, I have not. Currently, I have not started anything. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just let us know like whenever you are going to start any other
Sure.
course.
Sure. I will. I will. Yes, I will.
Is it possible for you to record a class on how we need to install Terraform on our local?
Everything is recorded. I think yesterday's session that you have missed, is it? Yesterday, we have seen about how to install, how to set up. So yesterday only about the introduction and setting up the environment. So you will get the recording. All right.
So this course would actually be Terraform based, or is it just like a cloud policy based creation?
Terraform based. Terraform based.
Okay.
Right. Recording. You will get it in a portal access. You will get the portal access. I think you get in touch with Visualpath admins folks to get the recording. Okay. I think you will be shared with the link. So initial classes you will be shared with the link. I think after they have given up, access to the portal, you will be getting the complete access.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I hope there's no question. Any question, feel free to post, guys. Thank you so much. Good day for everyone.
Okay. Thank you.